this particular study is like shocking. But the reason that that is not only shocking because of the results of the study, it is shocking that Pfizer has done nothing about it.
We are here today with Ashleigh Raso, Nigh, Goldenberg, Raso, and Vaughn, one of our favorite law firms, here to talk about Depo Provera. Just give us a little background, Ashleigh, before we get started. I know you have a tremendous breadth of experience in these federal lawsuits. Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, sure. I have been practicing for a little over 12 years. I have done medical devices and pharmaceuticals exclusively. One of the great things about being in this field is, unfortunately, medical devices and pharmaceuticals impact women often more than just because of birth controls and vaginal mesh and all of the things that we put our bodies through. And so it's been a real honor to represent women in this field, but also, unfortunate that we continue to have products like this impact women disproportionately and have these results, and sometimes, years later. So it's been a real privilege, and, unfortunately, here we are again.
Let's jump into the Depo Provera lawsuit. What's going on? What do you know?
Yeah, so Depo Provera is a kind of contraceptive that is given through a shot, and it's very unique that way. Most people take contraceptives either through pills or through IUDs or through implants, and so people remember when you get this kind of shot. They remember, oh, that is how I got the birth control that I was on. And the allegations here are that the Depo Provera shot causes a certain kind of brain tumor called meningioma. Meningiomas aren't typically cancerous. They are extremely painful, and it requires a lot of medical intervention, usually surgery, oftentimes multiple surgeries, because once you have them, there's a recurrence of them. And so the allegations here are that Depo Provera causes these brain tumors, and that companies who manufacture them, mainly Pfizer, has or should have known this many, many years ago. And I think we'll get into this, but the studies go pretty far back as far as how and when they should have known. And so that's the main allegations here.
What is the time frame of this?
Depo Provera was actually first introduced as a drug to treat renal cancer. The birth control was kind of a side effect. It tried to get approval to be a contraceptive 3 times before it was actually approved, as early as the 1960s. It wasn't approved until 1992 as a contraceptive. And since then, it's been offered as a shot that someone can take. You have to go into a clinic. It's not something you can do at home. And you have to go in every 3 months. But the pro that was offered to women is that you go in, you make this appointment, and you don't have to think about it for 3 months. So you don't have to take a pill every day, or you don't have to, have an insert. So that was the pro that was offered to women. In 2002, it was acquired by Pfizer from Upjohn. And since then, Pfizer has been the main manufacturer of Depo Provera, whether through itself or through subsidiaries that are essentially still Pfizer, but they might call themselves a different company.
Is this still being given, the same formula that's causing these cancers?
Yes, there is another formula that was also approved called Sub-Q, Depo Sub-Q, which is also approved to treat endometriosis. That drug is still given, and yes, this is still a contraceptive that is offered.
You're interested in talking to women who used all the way back into the 1990s. I know now we're 20, 30 years later. Really, anyone who's used the drug and has experienced these tumors would be someone we'd be interested in talking to, correct?
Yeah, so we are talking to women who've taken it at any time. We're going to investigate your claim. We're going to take it. These tumors don't develop overnight. So it's not that you go in, you get the shot, and then you get the brain tumor the next day. We're finding, and the studies are finding, that it takes a long time for these brain tumors to develop. So unfortunately, there will be people that develop them in the future that don't even know it, who has taken this drug. But certainly there are some that have taken it many years ago and are now developing these brain tumors. The truth is that sometimes I certainly don't remember 10 years ago if I took, one flu shot that year or a flu shot every year. And so a lot of times we're finding someone thinks they maybe only took it once or twice, but they took it many times. So I'm willing to investigate that. The science does support that a year of use significantly increases your chances of developing it by 5. Even more than that will increase the risk. So the more you've taken it, the greater the risk, but certainly we will investigate your claim if you've taken it.
There's a really important study. And as a lawyer, you're looking at these studies in all of your cases, but the study in this case seems to be particularly strong and relevant. But just walk us through what you're looking at and why you are really willing to work on this case for probably 5, potentially more years on behalf of the women who decide to hire us.
These studies, as I mentioned, go back as far as 1983, before the drug was even approved. But they don't name Depo Provera, right? They name the active ingredients. But as these studies progressed and as time progressed, more and more studies were done. The most recent was in April of 2024, where the French National Agency, which is similar to our FDA, took a study of over 18,000 women who were diagnosed with meningiomas. And between those women were diagnosed between 2009 and 2018. And they found that this prolonged use, which is a use of, a year or more, increased their rate of meningiomas by 555%. Again, over a 5-fold increase. Which is huge. And the reason why that's so important is because we generally have an idea of A causes B in any kind of case. But to get into court and prove that, there's a standard that we must meet. And these kind of studies, studies that prove that A is related to B, allows us to step in that courtroom and to really bring this case on behalf of women and prove that the prolonged use of Depo Provera causes these meningiomas.
And I think people who are just looking into this for the first time, they don't necessarily know, is a 5-fold increase a lot or a little? The cases that I know about, you're looking at sometimes a 1.8 or a 2 or a 2.5-fold increase. And that's a very strong case that you can go to court with.
Right. This particular study is shocking. This at this point is such a strong correlation. And when you add the 2022 study and 23 study and going back almost, every few years, there's a study that correlates them to some degree. But the reason that is not only shocking because of the results of the study, it is shocking that Pfizer has done nothing about it. They have changed their label 13 times since this drug has been approved. And at no point did they add that there might be a risk of these meningiomas. Why that's even more shocking is they just changed it in July. So this study comes out in April and they have their change in July. They do not mention this. It's not whether they know about it or not. Companies are required to follow the literature that might involve their drug. And if that wasn't enough that we knew they were required to, The Guardian came out with an article about this, and Pfizer admitted, we've seen this article, we're looking at it. And then July rolls around, they still haven't changed their label. And, there's really no excuse because there are regulations that allow them to change it pretty quickly when stuff like this comes out. And it's even more shocking that it has been changed in abroad. So in French, the French system, the UK, the EU, they have not only changed the label, but they have changed the patient leaflets. So, the label's a long document. It's hard to read. The leaflets are not, and they are absolutely, digestible information that you could look and see, okay, this is the results of taking this. I might get this sort of brain tumor. And so Pfizer has done none of that here in America. They still have not changed the label. They have not changed patient information. And given how strong the study is that you mentioned, it's really shocking result.
Where is the FDA in this?
So a lot of times companies will recall their own products or they will issue a warning themselves. If they don't get there, the FDA may step in. The FDA is not, particularly fast at this. But it is without a doubt the responsibility of the company to do the first step of providing this information. And that's true for this drug, that's true for this company, or any other drug or any other company. They should have been the ones to take the first step.
Why do you think Pfizer has not done that yet, considering there are now claims against this company?
That is a very interesting question, a question that I have a good idea on based upon my experience in this. And I would say many times we see a common theme here where profits are put over people. But to truly answer that question, it might take some pretty in-depth document review that I'm sure that this case will get into in the coming years.
There's a scenario where it looks like guilt, an admission of guilt. And I think what we've seen in the past, I'm not going to speak for Pfizer. I don't know what the documents are going to show, but they would rather deny liability and continue to sell the product than give up an advantage to plaintiff lawyers.
You mean then do the right thing?
Another thing that this French study mentioned is that oftentimes this drug, Depo Provera, given the way that it is given, which is in a clinic, it is often offered to vulnerable populations. So, women of low income or women who can't maybe afford certain other methods, but can get this method. And that's particularly troubling when you take that information and know that they are not warning about this for women who are going to continue to take this drug, and it's offered to particular vulnerable populations. Young women, especially, a lot of times this is offered to women who are in college and can't have, the daily pill, can't really be dependable to take that. And so that's particularly troubling when you think of it in that context as well.
Troubling that they don't even know about it.
Regardless of when someone is diagnosed, so they could have used the drug 30 years ago. They could have been diagnosed, 15 years ago. Is that still somebody you want to talk to, even though it's I know people get worried about the statute of limitations. Obviously, we're learning more about it right now. What position do you take on that?
Yes, I want to talk to anyone who is in the position who took Depo Provera and then got diagnosed. Every state is very different in how they treat these kinds of cases. Some states have what we call a discovery rule, which is your clock that starts ticking, your statute of limitations, does not start to run until you discovered the correlation between the drug and the injury. So every state is very different, not only in how they treat how long the statute of limitations is, but also when it starts to accrue time. So we definitely want to talk to everybody.
What evidence does someone need in order to have a claim?
Some of these cases will go back far and there will not be medical records. We still want to talk to you. And beyond that, we just need to get your diagnosis of the brain tumor and we can take care of that. So we get your information, we get an authorization, and we go and get those records. If there are records of your shots, the Depo Provera shots, we will get those as well from the clinic, which will show these are the days, these are how many shots you got. If those exist, we will get those as well. And we do all of that through a very smooth system of getting your authorization and then ordering them. There's nothing you have to provide except for, the approximate dates of usage, the where you got diagnosed, which hospital or clinic, and the treatment that you've gotten, and then we take care of the rest.
I know it's a concern. Sometimes people, they don't want to go to court. They don't want to have a trial. I think it's important for people to realize we're a long way from any trials in this case. And typically we're looking at thousands of plaintiffs and maybe one or two trials. It's not a tremendous investment of time and effort. The process is kind of, you give us a call, we confirm your name, address, date of birth. We talk about the process a little bit. We sign some documents, we order the records, and then we get the records. But really, it's proving what Pfizer did wrong, and that's what the lawyers are going to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. You make two very good points. The first is that this will take some time. Pfizer is a big corporation, many documents, and we'll go through that. An average car accident case takes 18 months, for example. This is much, much more complicated than that. So it will take some time. There will probably be thousands of plaintiffs. And when that occurs, what happens is oftentimes they get coordinated into one single court, not one single case. So you're not part of a class action. This would be different. What would happen here is you'll be part of a multi-district litigation. And when there's so many cases like that, the court chooses a test case or an average case that we call the bellwether case because it's on the bellwether curve. And so the chances of actually going to trial are very, very rare, very little. However, we will, prepare each person for any sort of eventuality if they might go to trial. But yes, it's generally for most plaintiffs, it is a small time commitment, and we just need to order your medical records and do some discovery. Generally, it's going to be us doing an immense amount of document review and depositions and working with those experts to talk about those studies that we talked about.
For women watching this who have taken the shot but maybe not diagnosed with this brain cancer, can we talk about the cancer specifically? Like tell me again, what is it? And like, what are the symptoms associated with it?
And it's typically non-cancerous tumors.
But like, how does that affect women?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it typically is non-cancerous. And the reason I've been saying brain tumor a lot is because sometimes they'll just get diagnosed with brain tumor and they won't call it a meningioma. Sometimes it gets misdiagnosed immediately. And so that's why we want to talk to people who have been diagnosed with brain tumors and not this specific injury only. We will confirm that later. And so unfortunately, the side effects of this kind of brain tumor can range greatly. They can be anything from headaches, which we all get, to memory loss, seizures, weakness, changes in vision, and people experience it very, very differently. As we know, sometimes women have difficulty getting diagnosed correctly. So sometimes it may take multiple visits to the doctor to get diagnosed. Be adamant about talking to your medical professionals.
I mean, this is a cutting edge moment in this lawsuit. It is gaining traction very fast. It's wonderful to have Ashleigh here. I know you've put in a ton of work in the last few weeks just getting up to speed on all this, and it is not easy to wrap your head around. So thanks so much. Your law firm, I think it's important to talk a little about Nigh Goldenberg as a group. You're a group of lawyers who are out there every day doing the work. You're doing trials, you're doing depositions on all sorts of lawsuits, and I know that, but tell the people your firm is a little bit different, and we love working with you because of the work that you do and how you understand what firms like us do. Let's hear it. Let's hear the Nigh Goldenberg pitch.
My partner, Marlene Goldenberg, and I went to law school together, but the rest of us all met by working on these cases. And what happens is when you start these kind of cases at the very beginning, it's almost like starting a law firm. You're working with all these new lawyers that you might never have met, and you're deciding, who you like working with, who does a really good job. And we all realized we offer each other something really great, and that we loved working together and that we complemented each other really, really well. I know you are good with Brett. He can talk all day about SEO, and I don't know what half of that means, but he offers something so great to the team, and we all just complement each other really well. And what we really wanted to do is offer, very individual representation, because we believe every client has experienced something differently. Even if they were injured in the same way, it all impacts people very, very differently. This is, for example, in my hip cases, some people recover immediately from their revision. And I've had clients lose the family farm because they can't work on it anymore. And not to say both of them weren't injured. They were both injured. They both deserve justice, but everybody has a very different case. And we believe that we could run a better law firm by harnessing power of technology. So we're very, we are very reachable, and we do things a little differently. We try to be a little bit more advanced than just pen on paper, but certainly we meet our clients where they're at. That's where they want to meet. We are happy to, use systems like mail and, and all the things we relied on, but we harness the power of technology, and we also are very science forward. So we get involved in cases in which we really, really believe in the science. And this, for all the reasons we talked about, is definitely one of those cases that we wanted to get involved in because of not only the studies that go back decades, but the shocking studies that have come out recently regarding Depo Provera.
I know all about your law firm. I talked to Brett and I work on hernia mesh cases together, and that's how I was introduced to your firm. But it is rare to see the number of cases and the hours worked by the 4 named partners, the 4 originators of the law firm. And it's just, it's really refreshing to see the level of law practice and customer service. We refer a number of cases. We team up on a lot of cases together. And the level of service and the level of legal work is just it's a very nice thing for the folks who need a lawyer.
Well, I appreciate that so much. It's funny that you say that because when I hire new staff, not obviously attorneys, but staff, I would much rather them work at McDonald's or, a customer service than any sort of legal experience, because that's truly at the end of the day, what we're here for is to provide, service for our clients. And so I love to hear that.
So we'll link the website. You can check out all the different practice areas, and Depo Provera, I'm going out on a limb and saying Ms. Raso will be one of the people leading this lawsuit for a long time here, and really appreciate talking to you here in the very beginning, and looking forward to hear more in the months ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.